All right, James Duthie back with the panel. This is one of those segments where you make no friends, only enemies, because none of the teams that we pick for our top 5 cup contenders will notice or care. But the teams we leave off the list, they will. I don't think we actually make bulletin board material, but try to pretend we're that important to do it. So at the beginning of Trade Center, each of our analysts listed a top 5 Stanley Cup favorites. And now, based on what has happened on this day, we'll see if they have made any changes. Let us start with Cheryl Power.
Yes, I did make some changes to mine, but it didn't start at the top because I had Dallas at the top, and Dallas is staying at the top with the addition of Rantanen, knowing what he can do there with that lineup, with the goaltending and the defense. But in my number 2 spot, I'm going to Florida now, the addition of Brad Marchand. You got Seth Jones now. This is a team with an identity so difficult to play against. In third for me, into the mix is Colorado. You've got Nelson and Coyle, add in McKinnon and McCarr from the back end. That is a deep lineup. Winnipeg drops for me here. They drop because I don't think they address their need on that second line, and they are up against Colorado in Dallas. And yes, the Leafs have entered the equation for me because I feel like Scott Laughton in that 3C, the culture, the leadership, and of course on the back end, I think this was a perfect fit with the addition of Carlo. All
right, a couple of changes there. Jeff O'Neill, if you were not with us earlier on, said, there is no chance I am changing my top 5. Out of pure laziness, I think. It wasn't like he was trying to make a statement. But did you indeed make some changes?
I changed it, Jimmy, and as a tribute to this segment, I know how much you like it. It means to you. I am going to go with the Colorado Avalanche as my number 1 club right now. Wow. I love what they did today. It reminds me of a couple years back where they went out and got Cogliano, Manson, Lehkonen. They went on a cup run and got the job done. I also love what Dallas did. They got the best player available. What Carolina's doing, nobody knows, but they gave up Rantanen and Dallas got him. The war in Florida is going to be absolutely fascinating. I'm praying that Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are both on my list, play each other in some capacity. I don't care when it is. And at the end, a team that didn't really do anything today, the Washington Capitals, they're just... You can't ignore their record and how good they've been. But I love what every other team on this list has done.
So the guy who was not going to change any of his picks picked 2 teams who were not in his top 5 now as the 2 Stanley Cup favorites.
Dude, I got to be totally honest with you. I've totally forgot what my original one was.
Well, I'm the same. I'm the same. We all have. Mark Giordano, a rookie doing this game. What do you like?
Well, I scrambled my whole top 3 for sure. I left Toronto and Tampa as my 4 or 5, but I just thought Colorado's my number 1 with the moves they made. Look at that center ice position. They got Nathan McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle down the middle. I think you had Nikesh on the wing. I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with. And then
I don't think the Anaheim Ducks are really your second choice.
I think the Dallas, not the Ducks.
No,
Dallas,
no, the Dallas Stars are my second choice. I mean, adding a guy like Rantanen, and then, you know, Sagan's coming back from injury for playoffs. I think that's another deep team. And then Florida, they weren't even on my list, I think, the original list, but with the additions they made, they got Marchand, you know, they have Jones on the back end, a guy who's going to play 25 minutes a night and hopefully can step up his game. I think he will. He'll be excited to play in a market, you know, going to playoffs. I think it's going to help them. And then I kept Toronto where they were. They made the moves they needed to make. They got Laughton, who's, you know, a great player, energy guy, centerman they needed, and getting the D and Carlo was huge. And then keeping Tampa Bay in the 5th spot. I just think with Vasilevsky in net, you always have a chance in playoffs.
That Marchand move, man, that's got some spice to it. I know he's not the same guy, but man, he's a big ad. Like, just putting him in the locker room, I could just see him out in warm-up.
Him and
like
Sam Bennett and Matthew
just got some jam to it.
Even that video from the Team Canada locker room during 4 Nations, right? Go ahead, MJ.
All right, so I made a couple of changes, but I stayed the same at the top. I had Dallas before as my favorite. I got Dallas after picking up Rantanen, and still my favorite. Obviously, why wouldn't I do that? All the reasons mentioned, they're already one of the best teams in the league offensively. Heiskanen will be coming back, Sagan maybe as well. They're going to be dangerous. Florida, I like Jones. I like Marchand. I like how the depth has really evolved. And I think that they'll be able to rise to the occasion when the playoffs get there. No one's sleeping on Vegas. I know they didn't do a big thing today, but they have a path of least resistance. Right. I know the Oilers are there, but the Pacific is not what the Central is, so I have them in 3rd. Colorado, they've revamped their entire roster, but their main guys drive it, and everyone else seems to fit well around them. And then Tampa, who are rolling right now. And Vasilevsky, very quietly, has become one of the best goalies in the league once again. And we know what he's done in the playoffs in years past.
That's terrifying.
The only challenge will be the division again for those teams in the Central and the Atlantic.
Winnipeg slid off my list. They slid off his list. They can still get it done, and maybe that's confidence in the group. But when you look what they've done compared to everyone else, it just doesn't look like it's enough. And if they get pumped again in the first round, they're going to hear about it.
You guys are overreacting to the deadline. That's what you have done, because the Winnipeg Jets should not slide off your list. I have no recollection of what I picked earlier on as well, but I did have Winnipeg number 1. I've now slid them down to 3, but they're staying in my top 5. I also have Florida 1 and Dallas 2. I feel a little sheepish because I was eating a sandwich while I was doing just during the commercial break, so I dropped Colorado off. I might want to do over, but I'm the host, so I can do 5B Colorado, 5C Toronto.
A guy that didn't even pay attention to that.
Hey, those are good choices.
Second.
Like I said, you really needed 8, I felt like, this year on the list. It was tough to knock out the other 3. No one will remember who we chose anyway, except if one of our teams win the Stanley Cup. We'll probably bring it up a couple of times.
Yeah, we will.